Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Glad to be back. Glad to be back. We can talk some more about God's Word. Today, we're going to be looking at First King, the fifth chapter. First King, the fifth chapter. And what we're going to talk about is what can you do for God? There's a lot of things that people are doing. There's a lot of things, that can be done. But what we want to talk about today is what are some other things. We know about the spiritual gifts. We know about, we know about certain things. About, the gifts of the Spirit, the spiritual gifts. The callings of the ministry. However, what about some of the other things? Other things that people have done. Again, when you're skilled in your work, um, Apostle used to say this all the time. I know it's a proverb, but a man skilled in his work will see kings. And in this case, we can see that this gentleman. First of all, we're gonna talk about two things. We're gonna go to the seventh chapter, and we're gonna meet Haroon, who did all of that building and crafting for the temple. So let's get ready to we dive in deep today. So also we're gonna talk about making sure that when you're dealing with friends, make sure you do them right. Meaning that if you're gonna give them a gift, make it so the gift is worthwhile to them as well. It started off, and matter of fact, it's very subtle, but it started off. Yeah, let's go to that right quick. Let's go to that right quick. So in chapter 5, and we're going to look at the difference from chapter 5, and then we're going to see how he did his guy. So, and we're going to talk about this for a second because it's important. Again, this is just how you're treating your friends. So when Hiram, King of Tyre, heard that Solomon had been anointed king to succeed his father David, he sent, envoys to Solomon because he always been on friendly terms with David. Solomon sent back his message. We're not even going to go into that. But verse 6, so give orders that cedars of Lebanon be cut for me. My men will work with yours, and I will pay you for your men whatever wages you set. You know what, we have no one skilled in felling timber as Sidonians. The Hiram heard Solomon's message. Praise be the Lord today, for he given David a wise son to rule over the great nation. Hiram sent word to Solomon, said, I received the message you sent me. I'll do all you want, providing the cedar and the juniper logs. My men will haul them down from Lebanon to the Mediterranean Sea, and I'll float them as rafts by the sea to the place you specify. Therefore, there I will separate them. You can take them away, and you are to grant my wish by providing food for my royal household. So here's the deal. Deal was this. Hiram kept Solomon supplied with all the cedar and juniper logs he needed, and Solomon gave Hiram 20 cores of wheat, and then in addition to 20,000 baths of pressed olive oil. Solomon did this year after year. And the Lord gave Solomon wisdom, just as he promised him, and there was peaceful relationships between Hiram and Solomon. The two of them made a treaty. Okay, today was cool today. Now let's look at what happened. And here's one of those sort of ways that Solomon was beginning to change. We may need to go to 8, 9, 10. That's after the dedication of the temple. Give me just a second, y'all. We gotta find it again. So okay. So at the end of 20 years after Solomon got his buildings, got everything done, King Solomon gave 20 towns in Galilee to Hiram, king of Tyre, because Hiram had supplied him with all the cedar, juniper, and gold he wanted. But when Hiram went from Tyre to see the towns that Solomon gave him, he was not pleased with them. What kind of towns are those you give me, my brother? And he called the land Cabal, a name they have to this day. And Hiram had sent to the king 120 talents of gold. Well, let's talk about that. Now, this is where the changing kind of began a little bit. Hiram did his thing. He was faithful. He kept his word. He sent the gold, the stuff, all the stuff he's supposed to give. Now Solomon kind of got what he wanted. It looked like Solomon didn't care anymore. He started kind of giving them any old thing. You got to be careful how you treat your friends too, because we see that as things kind of got worse for him. It didn't say Hiram didn't stop doing that because he was getting wheat and the oil and all that. That was still coming in, and his country needed that. But a lot of times friendships get strained when and upset when you do something like this. Even now, they call it in the streets these days finessing, or a lot of words for it. But you're not being truthful and you're not being honest. Hiram called them towns good for nothing. What can I do with it? Galilee already kind of had a reputation about it. So that's why, it was, Galilee, and that's why they were even going on about Jesus. Can any good thing come out of Galilee? So Hiram was like, I thought you were going to give me something decent. Now I gave y'all this gold. This is how you pay me back, bro. See, that was the beginning. That was the beginning. Very subtle, but that was the beginning of a change in Solomon. Treat your family, your brothers right. You may mess up, but make sure you go and do right by them. Because he didn't do right by this guy, Hiram, stuff started kind of stacking up. All the wives, all the other stuff. We got all what he wanted there. He got everything he wanted. Talking about Solomon. So Solomon, this is Solomon being slick. This is Solomon. Hiram didn't have couldn't suspect anything different because he been dealing with him for a while. It's when you get here, when the works of the flesh. This right here is, you can say, is one of them know that Solomon has started working in his flesh because he ain't do Hiram right. The other thing, the forced labor is supposed to have been 2 months on and 1 month off. No, that forced labor went on for years, man. That forced labor is something that, was supposed to have stopped. So it says 3 times a year Solomon sacrificed burnt off fellowship off on all he built for the Lord, burning and so fulfill a temple obligation. But now you're forced. But this stuff that Solomon went on, he never stopped building. He never said no. And we covered on Sunday all the chariots and horses, and that was written in Deuteronomy 17, I think 21st verse. There's a section on kings and what kings supposed to be doing. The kings didn't do. He didn't do it. So guess what happened? Now you got issues. So treat your friends right, man. That's what we, make sure you treat your friends right. Do your friends, if your friends don't like the agreement, do them right, man. Because Solomon, the small subtle change was right here when Solomon kind of, didn't do Hiram right as he had done before. Hiram was still kind of, he was faithful to him. And Solomon began to, change on him, began to flip on him. So let us be mindful of that we're not flipping on our friends. We're not doing stuff that we shouldn't be doing. All right, guys, this is the Christian Center Church broadcast. Until we meet again, God bless you, everybody. Have a blessed afternoon.